Warning, the activities in this show are dangerous and could lead to serious injury. Do not attempt any stunt or activity in this show. MTV and the producers insist that no one submit any videos of themselves or others performing any dangerous activities. We will not open or view them.
Oh God, oh God, oh God. I messed up, guys. I ignored a really important warning. And I'm lucky to be alive. The doctor said I'm lucky I can even talk. They're surprised I can even talk. I'm lucky. Oh man. You see, I was watching Ridiculousness with Rob Deerdeck. And I saw this warning. The episode had a bunch of dirt bike tricks in it. And it said whatever you do, don't try to copy these dirt bike stunts, right? It gave me this warning. And then one of the dirt bike people said that no one had ever successfully attempted a quadruple backflip on a dirt bike ever. And I said, hey, I want to get on Ridiculousness. I think that should be me on Ridiculousness. So, I'm gonna ignore this warning, and I'm gonna try to do a quadruple backflip, and I'm gonna have my buddy film it, and then he's gonna send it to Ridiculousness, and I'll get on the show, right? Makes sense. So yeah, I got up on that steep hill in my dirt bike, and I went down and I tried to do a quadruple backflip. And long story short, I've been doing too well. I'm starting to recover. But I can tell things ain't going right. I think I actually might still be in a coma, to be honest. I just tried to do some research on lithium, right? I thought that might be a fun sector to take my mind off of the injury. And a lot of people are saying something pretty crazy. They're saying that a big hurricane was used, weather weapons and whatnot. A big hurricane was used to flood western North Carolina, so that companies like Albemarle and corporations like BlackRock and Piedmont Lithium could profit from the lithium mine. But the small towns around the lithium mine, they're not really too excited to give up the land, right? So the idea apparently is that a hurricane was used, weather warfare was used to flood out western North Carolina, near this Asheville region, so that companies like Piedmont Lithium has many shareholders, and the biggest one is BlackRock. Let's see what else she says. She says Piedmont Lithium has many shareholders, mutual funds. She lists all of them. They proposed Carolina Lithium Mine is in Gaston County, North Carolina. Has been controversial due to environmental and health concerns, as well as opposition from local residents. Well, here's a great way to get rid of that opposition. Just flood out the town, flood out the county, flood out the city. And this is a big thing. Lithium was trending for a long time. Lithium was trending for a bit, and it's not, it's not very often you just see some commodity trending on mainstream Twitter for a long time. So I looked into this. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say that lots of people are suggesting, dare I say, that human lives were used to cause a super cycle bull market in lithium near a major low. And I started to wonder if I'm still in a coma, because that sounds like something I've been saying. And the doctors have been telling me, Puppy Trays, you can't say stuff like that anymore. You need to take these pills. And so I got them. And I'm about to start taking them, but before I do, it sounds like people are saying that this big correction in lithium happens to have ended because some people died as a result of being intentionally flooded out. And now we're hearing that people aren't really too eager to help. The people in Asheville, North Carolina, people are saying they're being offered $750. They're being offered $750, but it's actually a loan. And if they don't pay it back, then the government has access to their land. All types of stuff. But it just seems very odd. Everyone is saying the same thing. Human lives are being used to kickstart and sort of signal a major supercycle low in lithium. And what's that company they also keep talking about? Hasn't someone been talking about this? Albemarle. This is what the chart of lithium looks like. It's just very interesting to me that all these people are saying, hey, human lives were used in some sort of sacrificial way to bring about a bull market in lithium. When we look at the chart of lithium, LIT, it's hard to argue with them. They keep mentioning Albemarle. We look at the chart of Albemarle. Lithium's been on a tear since, and so is Albemarle, up 8%. Wow! And we look at the chart of Albemarle. It appears to be a 1, 2, wave 3, highest high on the RSI, shallow wave 4, and a wave 5 that ends with momentum divergence, then an A, B, C correction, where the wave 2 correction ended at the exact length of length of wave A, place of the wave B low, being where wave C ended. We do see this ABC correction has ended wave 2, and we're going to see potentially wave 3 of wave C begin. So it's almost like retail traders at mass are saying that buy the blood. That old saying from Baron Rothschild has a little more to do with buy the blood, right? The price blood. They're saying that it has a little more to do than just buy the price blood in Albemarle. And they're saying it has a little more to do with buy the price blood in lithium. They're seemingly starting to suggest that a lithium bull market and an Albemarle bull market are going to be a result of human lives being intentionally, dare I say, sacrificed for the stock market, for the economy. These people are crazy, right? But this is a lot of people. This is everyone. Wow. But there's one group of people that has a little different take. And not everyone is so conspiratorial. Let's look at this. Well, one group of people, I think it has more to do with lithium. I was gone for 2 or 3 weeks. People are saying that lithium bull markets and commodities bull markets and buy the blood in ticker LIT and ticker ALB have more to do with the price blood. That metaphor, it's more literal. The blood of the people who were flooded out and left to die in Asheville, now potentially not being helped. So it's even harder. And we look at the charts of Albemarle and Lithium, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. It looks like these retail traders at mass are giving some pretty damn good market analysis. And that's pretty rare. Well, that's kind of the opposite of what we usually hear. So that's one reason I think I'm still in a coma. Let's look at this one. Kamala Harris is behind the hurricane tragedy linked to the lithium mine owned by her husband, who works for BlackRock, or I'm not sure why BlackRock is in quotes. They filed for permits around the time of the hurricane disaster. This is treason. I've heard about the lithium mines in the mountains. I've heard about BlackRock and Vanguard being heavily invested in that area, is what he quoted. Let's look at what this person said. The Rubber Duck 79, in addition to the total wipeout of the Biltmore Village in Asheville, the Biltmore estate owned by the Vanderbilt family. Didn't Vanderbilt do something right after this? Anyway, Anderson Cooper, like Anderson Copper, was flooded out also. Let's watch what happens to copper. In addition to the total wipeout of the Biltmore Village in Asheville, the Biltmore estate owned by the Vanderbilt family, Anderson Cooper was flooded out also. As it turns out, the sick pedo art, child art, below was owned by none other than Tony Podesta, proud member of the Red Shoe Club and brother to pervert and Pizzagate player John Podesta. Huh? That's weird. That kind of sounds crazy. This guy's saying that this hurricane, this flood, was used to wipe out a mansion and flood it out because there was pedo art and some stuff belonging to members of the Red Shoe Club. And Pizzagate. Oh, Pizzagate. Oh, I remember that. Pizzagate is a conspiracy theory that everyone should ignore because only crazy people in QAnon, which is a fringe cult that believes Donald Trump is still president, that's only those people need to know about that. Right, okay, so never mind. That's Pizzagate. Wait a minute, but how did this guy, that's weird. How did the Rubber Duck 79, he posted on 9/30/24, that the Biltmore Village and the Biltmore estate, owned by the Vanderbilt family, was flooded out. He posted that on 9/30/24. Well, that's weird. There was a giant hurricane going through North Carolina and that whole region for multiple states during this time. So I'm not sure how he knew that that specific house was flooded out, because there was no cell phone connection, no service, and no possible way to know that. But hey, wow, he was right. Lucky guess, Biltmore Estate experienced significant flooding and damage followed by Hurricane Helene. Wow! Well, this guy picked a random house, a random ass place in the middle of a state he probably doesn't even live in, and said this place got flooded out. Hey, he was right. That was interesting. Lucky guesser. This presentation, including everything that came before the slide and afterwards and during the slide, is for parody and entertainment purposes only. I'm not expressing the views of any individual besides myself, and even those. I mean, I must have gone crazy, because now everyone is saying, yeah, I have to still be in a coma. They must have me on those meds, because I ignored this ridiculousness warning, so they must have me on meds. because I ignored the ridiculousness warning. But yeah, everyone is saying that lithium prices are being moved by a intentional sacrifice of real people. Are you guys nuts? You guys sound crazy. They're talking about Albemarle and they're talking about lithium, and they're saying that buy the blood in essence doesn't just mean buy the stock blood. It also means buy the literal human blood. And then we look at the stock charts of Albemarle and lithium, and we see, wait a minute, now they're actually ripping, and it looks like they're starting wave 3 of wave C megacycles. Wow. So I had done marketing research, and I realized, like, hey, a lot of people care, like, where the stock market's going. They talk about where stocks like Nvidia are going, and I was like, okay, like, you know, this is going to get pretty big, right? Because I'm pretty good at that. And then, you know, after predicting the entire S&P 500 rallying basically close to 6,000, all the tech stocks reaching those equal leg targets, I actually lost subscribers, even though I made several more predictions every month than, you know, the people who were, you know, subscribed to X Blue and all that. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not doing enough, right? Because when a stock like Nvidia or Microsoft rallies, right, what do they say? Well, duh, it's Microsoft, it's Nvidia. I was like, okay, right, I get that. What if I start telling them like uncannily accurate predictions? Like, what if I start saying Kodak Black, right? He got pardoned by Donald Trump. So if Donald Trump was still in power, right, he'd be working with, you know, the Trump administration, and he'd be performing rituals like throwing rocks at a photographer when he has the same name as a photography company, Eastman Kodak, and that would perfectly predict a wave 3, wave C. We even have people deleting their comments now, saying that was ridiculous, and then days later, exactly that happens. So, you know, we were talking about this for a little bit. And now the entire world is saying Lithium and Albemarle, potentially correctly. Retail traders making a very correct forecast, in my opinion, that we're going to see big bull markets in Albemarle and in Lithium begin. We're going to see buy the blood, that actual signal, right? Everyone on FinchWit's looking for the best signals, right? But we're going to see that the actual buy the blood signal for lithium and for Albemarle and also for Piedmont Lithium, we'll get into some options activity too. We're going to see these retail people are right. That buy the blood signal in metaphorical terms for the stock market was actually also literal. And we had, and even afterwards, I've always wondered why people didn't get upset about this after these tragedies happen. We see the unusual options activity on Piedmont Lithium. So I'm like, even without the quote-unquote conspiratorial stuff, there should be a massive news channel promoted to showing people, why isn't CNBC? Why isn't Fox Business? Why aren't all these people talking to the people of Asheville in the whole country that wants to know what's going on? And they're saying, hey, wait a minute, there's actually been unusual options volume on Piedmont Lithium, about 93%, 92% unusual options volume. Hey, we're actually probably going to see the lithium ETF and Albemarle begin their super cycle wave 3 lows. And this guy literally asked, how are those stakes in lithium mining looking right now? They are literally looking, like lithium, they're literally looking very good. I mean, this is something people are asking. These were posted. Seckle, Albemarle, lithium mine, Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Yes, Albemarle and lithium. They are about to rip the buy the blood screen. In price was also a buy the blood signal. Literally, the best time to buy the blood, metaphorically, was when there was blood to be bought, literally. And that's what millions of people are saying. Huh, that's interesting. It's almost like there should be a giant news channel devoted to this. It's almost like instead of people using occultism to predict when people are going to hit home runs, we should actually be addressing what real people are saying about how our entire economy and stock market is backed by faith And that's why sacrifices of people need to be carried out so that Lithium stakes can rally and stocks like Albemarle can rally. And then we're seeing, even if all of that is spread aside as coincidence, we're seeing the big option positions that are statistically unusual being taken in Piedmont Lithium after the fact. Why don't people know about this? Albemarle and Lithium, I mean, again, these are good takes. This is good stock market analysis. The idea that retail traders are dumb and that's not true anymore. Albemarle and Lithium, these are super cycle wave 3, very impressive predictions. This is extremely advanced stock market knowledge to know that the metaphorical by the blood in price is literally best when there's blood to be bought in real life. This is extreme. This is the highest level of stock market analysis there is. They have to put it in front of you. Revelation of the method. This is the highest level of stock market analysis there is. When Baron Rothschild was saying, "By the blood," he was not referring just to a metaphor. Or George Orwell, double speak, by the blood. He was also telling you, by the blood. How are those lithium mining stakes looking right now? Baron Rothschild would say they're looking very good. There's a lot of blood to be bought in real life and also in price. So the whole world should know, wow, it does look like Lit bottomed at the 78.6% retracement. It does look like that by the blood screen was perfect. It does look like Albemarle is going to bottom at the 100% extension of the length of wave A placed at the wave B high, being where wave C ends. Let's look at some of these. Right? Because we've got another factor going on. I've also been saying that we needed to pay attention to a large cult that believed Donald Trump was still president and that he had issued a bunch of executive orders to lock up all of the liberal pedos, and that's why people were storming the Capitol in January of 2019 January of 2020 was because he made January of 2021 was because he made a big cult that believed that this was going to be a big storm that comes. And so drain the swamp was, again, double speak. It wasn't just we're going to take out the elites in the swamp. We're going to literally drain the swamp. Like, these elites have tunnels where they do bad stuff to kids. Like P. Diddy just got arrested and now he's snitching. So now they need to flood all of the places, like in Asheville. They need to flood all of the places in Asheville where there was, what'd he say? Sick pedo art. Because P. Diddy is arrested. And unlike Jeffrey Epstein, P. Diddy is actually snitching. He's singing. That's why we're having all these CEOs step down. And we're having all of these, we're going to be having all of these places with tunnels be flooded. Like the Asheville estate, the Biltmore estate. And also we're going to see Disney World next with Milton. Divine consciousness. Do people know about this? Let's look at some of these numbers real quick. 138,000 views. 2.1 thousand likes. That's a lot of people. What are they talking about? This is something that confuses me. If the situation in North Carolina is part of the movie, how could it have been allowed to get this bad? What's she talking about? Why would it be part of a movie? This guy said it's not even a question as to what happened here. This was a controlled storm. that was stalled over this exact area. Just look at the White House, at the way the White House is handling this. They don't give a crap about anyone. Blank is a criminal organization. How locals have to tell you? But then this guy responds and he says, "Look into the Biltmore estate in Asheville, North Carolina. Look into the Albemarle Lithium mine. Everyone thinks the docks closed down for one main reason. Well, in fact, there are quite a few reasons: automation, pay, sex, trafficking, smuggling, and drugs." And then I want to include the devil's advocate. This guy said Kings Mountain is basically too far away from Asheville, so they don't really buy it. It's like an hour 45 minutes away from the mountain, so why would they flood Asheville? Or if they want to make a big economy around the lithium mine, an hour 45 is nothing. Anyway, key points regarding social media speculation on Albemarle, Lithium, and Asheville. I pointed out the joke Inside Job on Netflix makes about the Dow Jones being controlled by blood sacrifices. In the opening scene, Lithium LIT and Albemarle ALB began rallying this week in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. There was also a 698% unusual options volume on Piedmont Lithium with a 93% call bias. Lithium has trended for several days as social media points out the various mining interests. The idea is that the small towns will not be helped and will have no choice but to succumb to a land grab, selling land between Asheville and Kings Mountain to big corporations. Notably, another large group believes this may be ... a good plan to trust, and they are fringe right-wingers pointing out the allegedly dark history of the Biltmore estate. Let's get more into that, because I posted some videos about how there was a large cult that had been formed, and I did my marketing research on America's fascination with cults, and I thought, hey, this cult is much more deadly and it's much larger than Charles Manson and Jim Jones and Waco. So, I figured, hey, this is my claim to fame. I'll be the journalist that exposes this cult, because this cult is huge. But at the same time, there's, not a lot of knowledge of it because it's kind of like secret. They're supposed to talk in code, right? But they all have very similar thoughts on this Asheville flooding in the Biltmore estate. And it's something I've talked about for a little bit. The grounds of America's largest home, the Biltmore estate, experienced significant flooding and damage following Hurricane Helene. Let's juxtapose this with the Costco speaking out on P. Diddy's lawyer claiming his 1,000 bottles of baby oil came from the retailer. So he had his freak off supplies, and he had 1,000 bottles of baby oil confiscated by the feds. And so a lot of people are wondering, why would they take the baby oil? What's going on here? Why wouldn't they just take pictures of it and release it to the public? Is it really just baby oil? What's going on here? Again, the rubber duck says, in addition to the total wipeout of the Biltmore village in Asheville, the Biltmore estate, also owned by the Vanderbilt family, Anderson Cooper, was flooded out also. As it turns out, the sick child art, was owned by none other than Tony Podesta, proud member of the Red Shoe Club and brother to pervert and Pizzagate player John Podesta. Right, so I've talked about how Donald Trump got to do something about these Chid Larin, grabbed by the perverts, too many incidents, fast trial, death penalty. And I talked about how that Chid Larin was referring to something called adrenochrome, which is a chemical that comes from essentially torturing young children, scaring the crap out of them, and then in their adrenal gland, they produce some substance called adrenochrome that can be ingested. It is featured in the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So this spelling error, children, he didn't misspell that on purpose. He was saying Chid Larin. That's why I call them a cult. They are a cult. They know about this, and so they say that that's the reason Drain the Swamp is actually referring to, as I'll show in the next slide, a literal storm that is going to drain swamps. And this is something I have touched on before this happened. Let's continue. The pale skinned boy featured hanging by his hands in the art photo is alleged to be Anderson Cooper, where as a child he posed for the art in the very empty pool located in the basement of the now flooded Biltmore estate. So he's posted this 5 or 6 days before that's made official. The Vanderbilt family. Again, we see Vanderbilt upset Alabama. Another connection to this. I predicted with two football decos, Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame, and the Damar Hamlin injuring Tua Tagovailoa. I said, hey, we're being programmed for the Trump event. I made it very clear what that was. And then on Sunday, we did have on a golf course, just like what was also prophesied, a Trump event. And I've given my thoughts on that. That's also why San Francisco and Seattle need to be thinking about where some of these tunnels might be located and how their swamps are going to be drained, so to speak, if you live in that area. The Vanderbilt family, particularly Gloria, the mother, were known practitioners of black magic and members of the occult. Gloria's oldest son, pictured, committed suicide at age 23. Note, Asheville is a sex trafficking hub in the United States and is known for having deep underground tunnels and a long history of occultism and satanic ritual abuse. So the idea is this is all happening after P. Diddy, the so-called Black Epstein, gets arrested, because he's actually going to live, he's actually going to be singing, and that's why we're going to be seeing more swamps getting drained. That's why we're going to see more people stepping down. And eventually people are going to start to realize, yes, even this idea that Trump is still president. CNN now is hopping on this bandwagon, talking about how Trump is being briefed by the agencies handling this emergency. He's briefed by the military regarding various things. More people talking about this connection. And again, 7.4 thousand likes, 874,000 views. I mean, this is huge. I mean, do regular people, if you live anywhere near Asheville, if you're an American, do your family and friends know about this this is huge. 7.4 thousand people are liking this post that is essentially saying that the White Hats, Donald Trump's shadow presidency, intentionally caused the flood of the Asheville, area, to flood out the Biltmore estate. And the people who aren't in that club, they're saying what I believe is also correct, that this is to kickstart a rally in Lithium and Albemarle. Another theory that I have shared, and we see once again 7.4 thousand likes, 874,000 views. This post, it was just kind of saying what's going on here. 2.1 thousand likes talking about the movie. Do your friends and families, 138,000 views, do they know about the movie? We have 661 people debating whether this is part of the movie. I just thought that this was going to be useful journalism. I thought this was going to blow up. I thought that enough people were talking about it. So, of course, P. Diddy's baby oil is actually you're going to be told that was adrenochrome. That is a substance that is used to children are essentially tortured, and then they produce this substance, and the celebrities who take it, ingest it, they get high off of it anyway, and other things happen. Pray for NC in Tennessee. This blog was written in 2013 and reveals that Asheville, North Carolina, is but one of many satanic centers around the world. So if you live in a place where there are satanic centers, you might want to check out where those tunnels may be, and think about how those swamps might be drained, because there's some interesting methods they're going to have to use for San Francisco and Seattle and Los Angeles, where those are located. Let's just keep looking into this. 1.6 thousand likes, 182,000 views. Big people, big numbers. This is going to make Charles Manson and Jim Jones and Waco combined look like the Girl Scouts. For those saying flooding in Tennessee and North Carolina is to clear out tunnels, no, Delta Force would not create this kind of collateral damage. We've got 1.6 thousand people, 182,000 people, interacting with posts that they're talking about Delta Force did this on purpose. Did they do it? Did they create this collateral damage on purpose or not? Just read some of these, man. Surrounding homes and businesses and families. Seriously, folks, they go in and rescue victims, then collapse the tunnels. See, they're talking about collapsing these tunnels. So your family and friends, what are they all saying? If they don't know about this cult, then they're going to go to the polls and they're going to vote based on inflation, right? But no, that's not actually what's going to go on at all. The stock market already knows what's going to happen to inflation after the election, right? So they need to know about this cult that actually believes something entirely different is going on, and that we're seeing tunnels being flooded and all types of stuff. This big message that I had in the video that was talking about this group was saying, hey, they believe Donald Trump still has access to the weather weapons and that he is going to use those weather weapons to drain the swamp, to flood out the places where there are tunnels. And it looks like Asheville, North Carolina, and the Biltmore Museum was probably just the first one. And now we're seeing Hurricane Milton come, and Disney, Walt Disney World, also considered to have these tunnels, and the children go missing at Disney. But what's really going to happen is that most people, they're voting based on inflation and their wallets. But we have, just showing you in this video with a few posts, we have a group, millions of people large, that believes something completely different is going on. And they keep making very uncannily accurate predictions, knowing which places are going to be flooded out before it's officially announced. And now their great awakening is happening, where regular people are noticing that buy the blood does not just mean the metaphor buy the blood. It means that buying the blood in price is also when there's literal blood to be bought related to that ticker, something that I've talked about often. And now we've got this group talking about how millions of people large. She says, hey, not necessarily. This guy says the Delta Force would never create this collateral damage. This girl says, not necessarily. The Vanderbilt mansion. We had the Vanderbilt upset. People still wonder about this stuff. In Asheville, North Carolina, 125,000 acres of human hunting forest grounds. In May 1914, Edith Vanderbilt completed her late husband's wishes of selling an 86,000 tract of Biltmore to be managed by the U.S. government as public lands, creating one of the first national forests east of the Mississippi River. How do you bring up and expose all of the dead bodies and new information get introduced legally? A flood, right? So she's saying Donald Trump's shadow government, they had to do this. They had to bring this flood. How do you bring up and expose all the dead bodies and new information get introduced legally? A flood. The flood also exposes HAARP weather wars, right? We need to expose how bad HAARP is by killing more people with HAARP. Doesn't that make lots of sense? That's what this cult believes. The flood also exposes HAARP weather wars. Did you think a storm is coming? Like Donald Trump said, I believe 5 or 6 years ago to this date, was just the catchphrase. This person says, it's the black hats taking out red communities right before the election, displacing people. This person says, in my honest opinion, Trump had to decide, like he's still president, like he's being briefed by agencies in the army because he's still president, and even CNN is saying that's unusual. Trump had to decide. Do you sacrifice millions or do you save billions? So most of your family and friends, they're voting based on the economy, right? Are we going to see inflation caused or not? But there's actually a million person much larger than that group that says they're actually voting on something much different. Is Donald Trump going to basically be this utilitarian philosopher that decides who lives and who dies, right? Basically, exactly like what the depopulation agenda, that we need some elite to decide who's going to die for us, which is why a Kabbalist would make this sacrifice with a hurricane that is a perfect anagram with danger. Anyway, let's get a little further into this connection to the stock market. One more little group of stocks. This one, I don't believe this person is privy to this group or anything. I thought this was an interesting connection. Again, I'm not expressing anyone's views or opinions, and this is for parody and entertainment purposes only. Michael A. Gates said China doing massive stimulus to distract the public from Diddy. I thought that was so interesting because right after the September quad witching, we saw all the Chinese stocks explode, and one of those Chinese stocks is called NEO, and another one of them is called Alibaba, which I have a whole video about, famously mentioning that Alibaba was selling chidlerin, exactly like in that Donald Trump tweet, not children, chidlerin, the adrenochrome that Donald Trump is referring to. Again, a member of the Q people, they know all about this stuff, and they're saying that, the white rabbit, essentially, the white rabbit, this is the molecule for adrenochrome. That's why it's called the white rabbit. It looks like a white rabbit. That's why Disney has their white rabbit ears. Playboy Mansion, connected to Diddy's mansion allegedly via tunnels, has the rabbit logo as well, also referring to the harvesting of adrenochrome from children. The Matrix movie, Neo, he follows the white rabbit. He takes the red pill. Adrenochrome is red. Neo, the Chinese company, Alibaba selling the adrenochrome. So Neo, he follows the white rabbit. He takes the red pill. That's what all this is referring to. When you wake up from the Matrix, you're going to realize all of this. And I had a video where I said the 9 in the next 9/11 will be a large wave. Behold, a pale horse. A wave looks like a white horse or a 9. One pillar is the East Coast and another pillar is the West Coast. We have Hurricane Debbie approaching. I think that could be a Katrina-like situation, or what comes after that could be a Katrina-like situation. I do believe the hurricane, Category 4 Hurricane Helene, what it did to Asheville, potentially the double hit with Hurricane Milton, I do believe that will qualify as a Katrina-like situation. That large 9, that large white horse, that white wave, I do believe that was the East Coast. And now we see the Biltmore Estate, we see Disney World, and their tunnels being flooded, their swamps are being drained. This is more and more evidence, and I've given you even more evidence besides this for when this event continues to play out. I understand that people in San Francisco and Seattle are going to say, hey, hurricanes in the Northeast in the fall, it happens. I've given you even more indicators. What's going to start happening, it's not just going to be the swamps being drained. You're going to see more and more people. They're going to start dying, and they're going to start being arrested. And like these people prophecy, you're going to start to understand what's going on. But as always, you heard it here first. This might be the last time you hear from me. It might not be. I've got some pills to take because I ignored a warning.